And I say amen to that, really. To the last respondent that said we haven't, Rome was not built in a day, and he hopes that we all get there. I hope so too. And I hope it will happen in our lifetime, really. Johnson Chukwu, the Group Managing Director at Cowry Asset, joins me now virtually from Lagos. Mr. Chukwu, good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chief Nancy, for having me.
Thank you very much. You are the only guest of mine that calls me chief on television. Other people call me outside television. You're also a chief, so I will take it with my full chest. You know, I will take everything with my full chest. Good morning again. And it's not really bad to say Happy Independence. How was your Independence Day? How was the celebrations in Lagos? Here in Abuja, a lot of jets were just hovering around, vroom, vroom, you know, in preparation and all of that. But all is well and good now.
Yes, I can remember. I can recall that you chatted with me and said that aircraft were flying over you on the Independence Day anniversary day, and I said that means we want to celebrate after about 8 years or 7 years of no celebration. They wanted to now prove to Nigerians that there are things to celebrate. But in Lagos, it was a different ball game entirely. Lagos was on lockdown. Political party loyalists to the Labour Party President, Mr. Peter B, were all over Lagos. So there was gridlock in most parts of Lagos. So some of us basically could not really commute around on that day. And we were all inundated with videos and social media images and videos of those matches for the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. President. That's what we saw in Lagos that day on the 1st of October. It was like, it was more of a political rally instead of an independence celebration in Lagos.
Mm. For us in Abuja, at least for where I stay, where I reside, prior to October 1, our aircraft were just, there was a time I felt like the aircraft wanted to fall on the roof of my home, you know, but I understand that those are drills and rehearsals before the 1st of October celebration itself. Now, let's get down to business. President Buhari has delivered his last Independence Day speech as president. What did you make of it? I saw some reports in newspapers. Some people were saying, oh, President Buhari was emotional. Did you get that sense? I don't know if you watched the broadcast itself, 7 a.m. On October 1st itself. And what do you make of his speech?
Okay, I didn't watch it. I was basically doing my morning rounds during the period of the speech. But what did I make of the speech? Because I have gone through the speech. And what I can make out of the speech that President Buhari was trying to write his report card. He talked about the improvement in the economy, improvement in security, improvement in welfare, social standing, and all those things. So for me, it was a case of the student writing his report card. I think that those calls will be left for Nigerians at the end of his tenure. But I also understand his state of mind, that it's better he begin to present the narratives on a positive or to spin the narrative so that even when history wants to judge him, he would also have presented his own report card himself. So, and I think, like rightly pointed out, that was his last independence anniversary speech. So, like I said, I understand the mindset of those who wrote the speech and where we are coming from. But it is more like a student writing his or her report card. And I think we are the vigilators. We are the exam managers or the invigilator, like I said. We're the ones, Nigerians are the ones who write those reports card at the end of the tenure.
What do you think are the key highlights for you that featured prominently in this October 1 Independence Day speech?
You know, like I said earlier, it was more of speaking on what they have done, and then also trying to kind of give Nigerians hope that the future is still bright, and we should all be patient and key into the future that is before us. So it was partly an appraisal or self-appraisal report, and partly a motivational and speech that is to encourage Nigerians that the country's prospects are still strong, that irrespective of the challenges we've gone through, that it's not all hopeless. I think that's the two strands of message that the speech actually conveyed.
Do you think that Nigerians, as President Buhari bows out with his Independence Day speech, this is his last Independence Day speech. Of course, by May 29 next year, he will be handed over to another president. But do you think that President Buhari, how do you think that people would look at him now versus 2015? And let me read this because when I read his speech, paragraph 3 says, I am honored, I'm quoting him now, I am honored to say that my story in the annals of Nigeria's history is no household secret. My various attempts, failures, and eventual success in being elected as Democratic President in 2015 was made possible by the majority of Nigerians. I take two things away. Majority of Nigerians, do you still think that President Buhari has the majority of Nigerians with him in 2022? Secondly, the lesson there that if you fall, you stand. If you fall, you stand. You fall, you rise again. Because after 3 attempts, he became Nigeria's president. What lesson? That, at least, is quite inspirational to us as a nation and even individually.
Okay, let me start from the last segment of your statement, which is a source of motivation. I mean, some Nigerians previously used to cheer Abraham Lincoln, though he was kind of set up the number of times he attempted to elective positions and failed. Though, like I said, he was kind of inflated. So beyond that, Abraham Lincoln, President Muhammad Buhari is also one example that anybody in the world can hold on to, that if you are determined to achieve anything in life, setbacks should be kind of motivation, should not keep you, your setback should not keep you from trying to achieve your objective. And that if you remain consistent and persistent, you're likely going to achieve your objective in life. I mean, like you said, he accepted the presidency a number of times before he was eventually elected in 2015. And that was a time when it was so said that he had largely almost lost hope that that was realizable. So having said that, it can be a motivational landmark for people to know that failure or temporary setbacks should not keep you from achieving your life objectives. Now, moving on to the other aspects of what you just laid out, as it relates to the majority of Nigerians having elected in 2015, and whether that majority is still with him today. I listened to some segments of your preamble to this our conversation, where your outside correspondents, your correspondents interviewed some Nigerians on how they feel about Nigeria's independence anniversary. And the general comments that people have gone through a rough patch. I mean, you concluded with somebody's wishful statement that the country will rise to we will all live to see a prosperous country. But the fact of the matter is that Nigerians have not really, in the recent past, been imbued with hope of citizens have about their country. Today, we're talking of high rates of immigration of Nigerians. Those are symptomatic of deeper issues, particularly social and economic issues. And I've always said this, when you see citizens immigrating out of their country, there are two factors that could account for that. It could be political, and that political could include social issues. Either you have political unrest, you have social unrest, and then the situation is such that it's not giving people the hope that those issues will be resolved in the short term. Or you have a major economic crisis, and people have suffered enough and they can't see that the next day will be better than the current day. So that's where people might immigrate out of their country. And we're witnessing that. So those two factors seem to be very present in the country today. People can tell you that their economic situation has worsened over time. Most families have actually suffered some decline or deterioration in their standard of living. Then you also have to add to that the high level of insecurity in the country, where people could be kidnapped in the high-speed rail, where bandits could actually stop a train that is in motion and kidnap people, and they have not been rescued today, where people have to pay taxes to the bandits to be able to go to their farms, or part of their farm produce is now carved out to pay taxes to bandits, where people can no longer sometimes be able to go to their businesses on Mondays, as we have in some parts of the Southeast, where farmers are being displaced in the North Central, where people are being killed in the North East and Northwest. So these are factors that are really compelling people to immigrate. And those are some of the bases on which you can assess the confidence of citizens on a current administration. So it's there is, I don't know whether there's any opinion poll that has been conducted to assess whether Mr. Buhari will still have the same number of supporters as he had when we came into power, when he was elected into power. But I'm just talking of symptoms of disaffection and dissatisfaction that we are witnessing in the country. Whether those who are Jakparen will still have, if they have a choice to cast their vote today, would have cast a vote today as they did in 2015, is left for you and I to determine. But I mean, I'm just talking of what I can see socially and economically as it relates to how Nigerians feel about their situation in the country.
In paragraph 6, President Buhari did talk about his pledge, his commitment to improve the economy. Now, let's take a look at the economy since he came in. Of course, we can't do that even in 2 minutes, but let's just try as much as possible to take a look at it, which he alluded to in his speech, that he pledged, he gave Nigerians that commitment. This is a precedent that under his administration has seen 2 recessions, 1 pandemic, rising unemployment, poverty rates increased, and all of that. How do you think that President Buhari, is there really a way for President Buhari to even get out of this within now the next how many months that he leaves office?
Well, Nancy, this is the month of October. The election comes up in 4 months now, which is February 25th. And then once a new president elected, the sitting president becomes a lame duck because all attention will now be focused on the elected president. And the transition period is, or change of battle is going to be on May 29th next year. So we are just, I call it about 7 months shy of the exit time for this president. So in effect, the president has been in power for 7 years and 5 months. So whatever was not achieved in 7 years and 5 months, I don't know if it can be achieved in 7 months that is left. I think the key thing is that the government took its sight off the ball and continued to look in the rear mirror for a very long time. And the president has never, as a person, as an individual, said that his area of core competence is economic management. I mean, when he was elected, some of the major factors that drove Nigerians to vote for him was his no-nonsense approach to corruption, his ability to fight insurgents as a retired military general. And that's one of the things people will be looking at. Of course, it was expected that he would build an economic team that could drive the economy to in the right direction. But that seemed not to have happened in 7 years and 5 months. So it will be a leap of faith for anybody to think that the economy will be transformed in the next 7 months when we are fully in an election campaign season and all attentions are now paid. In fact, everybody were being bemused by the activities of the political parties. So, and I don't know any country in the world where major investments happen in an election year or an election period. You're not going to get foreign direct investors coming. Even local investors are going to stay on the sideline to watch the evolution of the economic policy as a new government comes into play. Because Decisions on investment are based on economic policies. Whatever policies that we have today are going to expire on the 29th of May, and the new government will come and enunciate their policies. So anybody who is expecting so much massive investment in terms of private sector investment or even public sector investment, if you talk about public sector investment, you know how the situation, our fiscal situation today. We know the country is struggling to meet revenue projections, and we know that today our deficit, our budget deficit, is counting the trillions. I mean, at the minimum, we should be talking about 6 trillion budget deficit in the current fiscal year. And that does not give the government so much of headroom to even begin to invest in infrastructure. But even if you have to invest in infrastructure, there's timeline that it takes to start and complete critical infrastructure investment. So I think the best the government should be preparing or focus on is some level of policies that can set the ground rule or redefine the structure of the economy. Policies as addressing the issue of petroleum subsidy, policies focus on the electoral process that will usher in a democratic, free and fair election. If that's what the legacy the president leaves, that will be celebrated in future. If the president's only legacy is that he's going to bequeath on this country a very free and fair election where every vote counts, where there is no malfeasance, and those who commit electoral fraud are brought to book. That will have reset the country's even economic structure, because once you have accountable government in power, then they will have no choice than to come up with policies that will address the suffering of Nigerians, that will create employment, that will create economic opportunity for people to make investment, and that will expand the opportunity for people to realize themselves fully.
If we take a look at another dimension which the president did speak about in his speech, I think still in that paragraph 8, if I'm not mistaken, I guess so. Okay, no, paragraph 6, because I noted them down. His promise to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. He made that promise in his 2019 speech. I was also expecting that the president should be able to give us, you know, data as to how many people he has lifted out of poverty, because he did say he will lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within that time and the next 10 years. We're already 3 years into it from 2019. How do you think that the president has done, since he also did mention in his speech the social welfare programs put in place by his administration, Empower, trader money, market money, which other social conditional cash transfer? There's a Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs now. He is the one that created it and all of that. But is there a pointer as to how many people that the president has lifted out of poverty?
You know, Nancy, I think that aspect of the speech, the speechwriters should not have included, because that aspect of the speech is an indictment on the efforts of the president in that regard. We know that in 2015, there were 5 countries that were ranked by the World Poverty Clock as the country that housed or where the poorest people in the world resided. And those countries were India, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Ethiopia, and Congo Democratic Republic. As at this last month, only 3 of those countries are still in the ranking of the countries that we are home to the poorest people in the world. And that ranking also has now put Nigeria at number 1. About 69.9 million Nigerians are living below poverty line. Much higher than the about 59 or 55 million Indians. I remember that Indian population about 1.4 billion. While our population based on that World Poverty Clock was about 218 million. So our population is just about, Indian population about 7 times the Nigerian population, and India is housing or is home to just about 55 million extremely poor people, while Nigeria is home to about 69.9 million people. So if the initiative of the current administration to reduce the level of poverty have been effective, we should have exited like Ethiopia, our next fellow African country, has done from that, unpleasant or embarrassing list of extremely poor countries, or like Bangladesh has exited from that infamous list. The key thing that I always said, if you understand economics, you realize that handout will never make anybody comfortable. Handout will never take you out of poverty. What will take out of poverty is opportunity, economic opportunity that will allow you deploy your competencies, your skills to earn income. And the more skilled you are, the more income you earn. And that gives households the opportunities for both parents or as many as adults to earn income. That's what takes people out of poverty. We have this saying that you better teach me how to fish than just give me fish to eat. So a handout has never taken any country out of poverty. China came out of poverty because they created economic opportunity for people to be employed. And then they now intervene for those who have great incapacity to help themselves. And by giving them, training them on skills and possibly providing accommodation, housing, and other supporting infrastructure. In the case of Brazil, what Lula did was what we call conditional cash transfer. They consider cash transfer families that were poorest were given cash handout on certain conditions. And those conditions were so that they were not going to be dependent on those cash handouts forever. So it was like you have to either send your children to school, or you have to get some skills, or you have to do something that will pull you out on your own out of poverty. So, but our own cash transfers were basically based on handouts without any follow-up on what conditions you need to meet to get those handouts, and that such handouts are not an everlasting handout. Even in the Bible, the concept of manna was for a season, and handouts or support for families that are in abject poverty should only be for season. The key thing is that you must give them opportunities to realize themselves to be economically engaged. And for those who don't have competencies, train them on and let them have skills that will earn them income. That is what reduces poverty in any society.
Let's take a look at perhaps, are there some bright sides to this administration? Even though we said that this president, under his administration, Nigeria has seen 2 recessions. I don't think it has ever happened in history. It's the first president that is that in history that has that to his credit: 2 recessions, 1 pandemic, and a whole lot of other economic misalignments. But are there still some bright spots in this administration in terms of business, in terms of the financial system, in terms of improving the ease of doing business in the country? Are there some bright spots? Are there some things, even though they are or are there legislations, just to perhaps refreshing your mind as to this question that I'm asking?
Yes, absolutely. It will be uncharitable for me to say there are no wins by this government over the past 7.5 years. You just mentioned the issue of ease of doing business. I mean, this government introduced visa on arrival. That for me is a landmark economic tool that we introduce to improve on access to the country by foreign investors. Because in the first place, nobody's coming here as a refugee to come and live on our patrimony, our commonwealth. Anybody who wants to come to the country, Nigeria is not even a tourist destination. Anybody who wants to come to the country is obviously coming for business purpose. So visa on arrival was, for me, a major innovation of the current government. Then we've also seen this government pass the Petroleum Industry Act. I mean, that was in the work for years under PIB with so many twists and turns, but this government has succeeded in passing it into law. That, for me, is a major success by this government. So, and there are a couple of things. They have passed an Electoral Reform Act that today is giving Nigerians hope that we're going to have a free and fair election. And like I said, if that's even the only legacy this government is going to leave behind for us, we will celebrate them in future, because once we are in a position to elect people of our choices, we'll hold those people accountable, and that because they know we have the tool to take them out of employment, they will work for us. Unlike previously, where the political leaders determined in 1 or 2 rooms who will rule over us, not who will be elected. I mean, so there are bright spots. So the president, at some point, will still have a history judge him, and there are areas where history will judge him favorably.
Let's take a look at the review for the 3rd quarter. We've started the 4th quarter and the final quarter. for this year. I know that you are having a third quarter economic review. I think it's coming up tomorrow. I saw the notes from you guys. I hope to join. No, I don't think so, because the timing will not favor me. So, but I know I could get the summary of whatever you're going to say. But can you just give me some tips as to how Nigeria fared economically and financially in the third quarter of this year, and perhaps your own outlook for the fourth quarter, which we have started, the last 3 months of the year?
Okay, Nancy, we actually put the webinar tomorrow by 12 noon so that you would have finished your program, so you can also, because it's going to be an expose.
Don't tell me that it's because of me you're doing that.
We're going to focus so much more on what will happen in the future. We are going to put on our octopus cap to kind of hazard a guess on what the economy and the political space will be like in the last quarter of this year. But back to how the economy fared in the third quarter of this year, I'm going to take it from on a segmental basis, on a sectorial basis. If you look at the capital market where we operate as well, you will observe that the market lost about 1.48 trillion naira in the third quarter of this year, and a decline of about 5.39% in the third quarter of this year. Of course, we saw an economy where the monetary authorities came twice to tighten interest rates. If you recall, in the month of July, the monetary policy rate was increased by 100 basis points to 14%, and the month of September, it was further increased by 150 basis points to 15.5%. So those factors led to a shift in investors' portfolio construction away from equities to fixed income instruments. And that's why the market capitalization lost about 1.48 trillion naira, or 5.39%. And then if you look at other aspects of the economy, you look at, it was a period when the global central banks all over the world were tightening interest rates because of major uptick in inflation. We saw inflation increase year on year and month on month. At the end of August, we had an inflation rate of 20.52%. So which meant that the economy was hurting to an average household. We saw a food inflation of about 23.12% in the month of August. And in terms of price levels, these are symptomatic of the kind of consumer prices that Nigerians had to deal with. If you look at the oil and gas sector, or the Nigerian foreign exchange, we saw, on the positive side, we saw a positive balance of trade in the period under review. Of course, I don't have the full quarter figure, but in the months of July and August, we saw a positive balance of trade, which could actually help moderate the pressure we're having on the FX. But that pressure has not really so much moderated because we have arrears of payment to make. You saw where the airlines during the quarter just ended, threatened to exit the Nigerian market because of arrears of unlimited ticket sales, that the central bank had to come in and pay them about 50% of what was due to them. So the economy, on average, has gone through, continued to go through challenges, and went through challenges in the third quarter of this year. Now to the fourth quarter. I had mentioned earlier that we should expect political dominance in the fourth quarter. We've seen a contraction in monetary policy, and that the impact of that will begin to manifest in the fourth quarter. So you should expect further slowdown in economic activities as manufacturers find it difficult to access credit, and where they even access credit, those credits are going to come at a very high cost. Okay. So in effect, you should see a slowdown in economic activity. You're going to see a slowdown in production, which could lead to the fourth quarter GDP declining. But there are some sectors that will benefit from the current political environment. The telecommunication sectors, particularly data services, are going to enjoying some boost. We've seen the social media space where a lot of videos are being shared. That is good news for the telco operator. So that sector, the telecommunication sector, is going to see a major growth in the fourth quarter of this year. There are also sectors that will grow. The textile industry will grow. The tailoring services will grow because there's going to be a lot of demand on their products and services as people are making T-shirts, bull shirts, uniforms for campaign purposes,
Okay.
face caps, and what have you.
Chukwu?
Those in the brewery industry will also enjoy some boom as when people come back from campaign grounds, most of them will hit the bottles. So,
Mr. Chukwu, if you can hear me. Mr. Chukwu, if you can hear me, I'm afraid we have to end it here. But thank you for your insight as to at least the sectors that will grow this quarter. So for a savvy business person should take note of that, or for existing business people in that sector. Mr. Chukwu, thank you very much if you're still there. And if you can hear me, I'll see you soon. I'll be speaking with Johnson Chukwu, who is the Group Managing Director at Cowry Asset Management. We've been talking about Nigeria at 62, President Buhari's October 1 speech. I'll see you all again tomorrow. God willing, be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye for now.